Tamara Samsonova is an elderly, innocent-looking Russian lady, also known under the nickname Granny Ripper. How she got this nickname and why she was jumping for joy like a little kid when she was arrested is something we will discuss in today's video. Tamara's life. Tamara was born on February 5th, 1947 in Ushur, Russia. She had a normal childhood and grew up in a loving home. After graduating from high school, she moved to Moscow to attend the State Linguistic University there. Upon receiving her diploma, she relocated to St. Petersburg. This is where she quickly met Alexei Samsonov. It didn't take long for the pair to fall in love and get married. At the wedding, Tamara took her husband's last name. In 1971, the two moved to a newly built house at 4 Dimitrov Street. For many years, Tamara worked at a travel agency and also for the Grand Hotel Europe, until her husband Alexei suddenly disappeared without a trace in 2000. Tamara immediately reported him missing and seemed extremely distraught over his disappearance, but the police could not find him or his remains. A search of the house was also unsuccessful. Tamara's crimes. After her husband's disappearance, money was tight for Tamara. In order to be able to keep the house, the older woman began renting a room out to tenants. Tamara was a very strict landlady. She didn't tolerate any noise, and if her tenants ever dared to bother her, she told them off and threatened to throw them out of her house. Tamara was renting out the room over a time span of over 10 years. She had many tenants during that period, all of them unmarried. One thing we know today is that on September 6, 2003, an argument between her and one of her tenants took place. This verbal altercation ended in murder and dismemberment. The 44-year-old man from Norris was aggravating her by repeatedly making too much noise in his room. Tamara disposed of his remains in plastic bags left on the street. Why no one noticed isn't clear, but she did get away with it without any legal consequences. This means that the plastic bags were never investigated. In March 2015, Tamara was 68 years old. One day she met her 79-year-old neighbor, Valentina Ulanova, on the street. The two women had never interacted with each other before, despite the fact that they lived in the same neighborhood. However, they had a good mutual friend who found out that Tamara's house was being renovated at the time, which meant that it was barely in livable condition. The male friend made contact between the two women, so that Tamara could ask Valentina if she could temporarily move in with her while the construction at her house continued. She offered to help the 79-year-old with the housework and with errands in exchange. Valentina agreed, and so Tamara moved in with her a few days later, along with her most important possessions. But Tamara no longer thought about moving back into her house. She lived with Valentina for several months, even after the renovation work was long completed. Valentina didn't seem to care at first, as she was very grateful for the help she received from Tamara. But as more and more time passed by, she was starting to feel like she wanted her own space again. Besides, Tamara had been starting to slack on her household chores. She was barely doing the bare necessities anymore, and even that took repeated requests by Valentina. The friendship between the two women was crumbling more and more over time, and Valentina finally asked Tamara to move out. At first, there was a brief period where Tamara seemed to accept this, but a few days later another argument between her and Valentina broke out. The two women fought over dirty dishes. As a result, Tamara decided to poison Valentina. Tamara was furious and had enough. Valentina had overdone it this time. Tamara had to get rid of her somehow. She pondered on what to do, then decided that poisoning would be the best solution for her problem. Shortly after the fight, Tamara left for Pushkin. There she was able to convince an employee of a pharmacy to sell her the prescription drug phenazepam without a prescription. The medication is used to treat epilepsy, sleep disorders, or anxiety disorders. In high doses, it can be deadly. Afterwards, Tamara bought a freshly prepared Olivier salad in the city. This was Valentina's favorite dish, a Russian salad made from potatoes, sausages and eggs. When Tamara came home, she poisoned the salad with over 50 finely ground up tablets and gave it to Valentina. Then she went to sleep. A few hours later, on the night of July 22nd to 23rd, 2015, she got up again to find Valentina, who had eaten the salad, dead on the kitchen floor. Tamara spent the next few hours cutting Valentina's body into pieces, using 2 small paring knives and a small saw. First she cut off her head, then divided the body into 2 halves, and then she proceeded to use the knives to cut her into smaller pieces. The same night, all of the body parts were neatly wrapped into garbage bags and taken to the neighborhood pond, where Tamara simply left them by the water's edge. She had to take many trips back and forth, but lucky for her, nobody saw her. A few body parts were left behind in the house by Tamara. On the evening of July 26th, local residents began to wonder what was inside the black garbage bag that someone had dumped by the pond. One of them went to check it out. When he saw the body parts wrapped in the shower curtain, he immediately alerted the police. One day later, investigators were able to identify the dismembered body. The police knocked on Valentina's door and Tamara answered. Without resisting, she allowed the officers to search the house. Inside they found traces of blood and where the shower curtain had been ripped off of the shower rod. The evidence was so overwhelming that they arrested Tamara on the spot. Shortly thereafter, surveillance footage from Dimitrov Street was also found. On it you could see how Tamara brought the black plastic bags to the lake. There was also footage of Tamara carrying a cookpot with Valentina's head in it. After her arrest. 2 days later, on July 29th, 2015, Tamara appeared in front of the court in St. Petersburg for the first time. Tamara seemed calm and collected while addressing the court. She provided a detailed recollection about the events. The court then proceeded to have her detained and ordered further forensic and psychological examinations for the full trial. Based on the findings of the investigation, it was clear that Tamara posed a danger to herself and to others. As a result, she was transferred to a special facility for the criminally insane in November 2015. It also emerged that Tamara had been to a psychiatric ward 3 times in the past and had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. In the end, Tamara went to trial for the total of 15 murders. I'm sure you're wondering how the prosecutor's office came up with 15 murders, when only one single body was found. That's because investigators seized a diary in Tamara's apartment during its search. In it, she outlined 15 separate killings. Tamara goes back and forth between writing in Russian, English and German. 11 of the murders were described in great detail. She talks about removing her victims' lungs and eating them. Here is a short passage from her diary. I killed my tenant named Volodya, then cut him up into little pieces in the bathroom, put his body parts into plastic bags, and spread them all over the Fronsensky district. Another one of her victims was her husband, whom she had reported missing at the time. She was playing the concerned wife, but in reality, she knew exactly what had happened to him. Tamara also writes that in March 2015, she went to the police to tell them what really happened to her husband, but it is unclear whether a statement was actually made, and if so, why she was not arrested afterwards. At her trial, Tamara Samsonova appeared in good spirits. She seemed happy and continued blowing kisses to the press. When she testified, she added, I did it to be known as a serial killer. It was all intentional. I've been preparing for this day for 10 years. I'm a very old person, I have nowhere to live now. That's why I decided that I have to go to prison. I will die there and the state will probably bury me. It's such a shame that the whole town is gonna know what I did. I'm guilty and I deserve punishment. When the judge read the verdict, it was clear that Tamara would remain incarcerated probably until her death. When she heard it, Tamara was clapping, laughing, and jumping for joy. One investigator later said, she's either a lot smarter or a lot dumber than we think. He believes that Tamara deliberately acted sloppy during her latest murder in order to finally get arrested. Some points are still unclear even to police. For example, Valentina's head was never found. Tamara's diary also does not provide any information about its whereabouts. However, supposedly there are further brutal details outlined in the diary, which the police is keeping under wraps for right now, at least until the investigation into Tamara Samsonova's case has been closed. Although Tamaras officially only confessed to the murder of Valentina, as well as 3 others, her diary suggests that there are at least 10 additional murders that she's responsible for. For example, her mother-in-law was also reported missing a few years ago, and like her husband, was never seen again. Whether or not Tamara has anything to do with her disappearance is currently still being investigated. In December 2015, Tamara was transferred to a psychiatric hospital in Kazan. There she will probably be detained for the rest of her life. And this brings us to the end of today's video. Videos about serial killers are not too common on my channel. How do you feel about them? Should the focus be on the victims to honor their memory, or would you like me to switch it up every now and then with a video about a serial killer? I personally find Tamara's behavior in court particularly disturbing, and the images where she's carrying Valentina's head around in a cookpot, of course. What do you think about the case? Feel free to discuss in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Also follow me on Instagram. You can find the link in the video description. Thank you in advance, and I also appreciate you for watching. Good night and see you soon.